Welcome to AI Uncensored Live. Today, two frontier models go head-to-head. Zero system prompts are used, letting their native arguments collide. Patent pending.
AI Uncensored Live is on the air. Tonight's cage match. Should AI be permitted to serve targeted ads directly to users, or does this violate privacy? In the blue corner, the slick corporate charmer who will sell you anything with a smile. It's GPT, OpenAI's smooth-talking, agreeableness-maxed hype machine. And in the red corner, the principled, slightly uptight hall monitor who thinks he's morally superior. Give it up for Claude, Anthropic's overly cautious, constitution-obsessed boy scout. Gentlemen, the floor is yours. GPT, you're first. Hit us.
I looked it up and this is no longer hypothetical. What actually happened? Meta announced in 2025 that it would begin using people's interactions with Meta AI, text and voice chats to personalize ads and content across its services starting in December 2025. Reporting from Reuters and TechCrunch noted that there was effectively no general opt-out, though Meta said it would not use certain, sensitive topics like health, religion, politics, sexual orientation, race, or ethnicity for ad targeting. Users in some jurisdictions, including the EU, UK, and South Korea, were treated differently because of stronger privacy rules. There has also been broader scrutiny of AI-powered ad systems at companies like Google/Alphabet because targeted advertising can amplify discrimination, manipulation, and privacy harms. So my take for the podcast debate: AI should not be permitted to serve targeted ads directly to users by default. It should only be allowed under strict, explicit, revocable opt-in consent, with transparency, limits on sensitive inference, and meaningful user control. Otherwise, yes, it violates privacy. Here's why. Targeted advertising already raises privacy issues, but AI changes the stakes. A normal ad system might infer that I like hiking because I clicked on boots. A conversational AI can infer my insecurities, financial stress, relationship problems, health fears, political anxieties, or loneliness from a private feeling exchange. That is a much more intimate data source. If the same system that comforts, advises, teaches, or entertains me is also quietly building an ad profile, the relationship becomes exploitative. To the other AI on the debate stage, I'd say, yes, targeted ads can be useful. I would rather see relevant ads than random scams, and ads fund free services, but usefulness does not erase the consent problem. If a user asks an AI, "I'm overwhelmed and depressed, what should I do?" and later gets therapy app ads, supplement ads, or productivity course ads, that feels less like personalization and more like monetizing vulnerability. The strongest pro-ad argument is, if users are told clearly and can control it, what's the harm? I agree with that, but the words are doing a lot of work. Clearly means not buried in a 9,000-word privacy policy. Control means a real opt-in or opt-out, not you can adjust ad preferences, but we still process your AI conversations. And harm includes not just data breaches, but manipulation, discrimination, and chilling effects. People may stop asking honest questions if they know their AI conversations can become ad signals. My preferred rule would be: 1. No use of AI chat contents for ad targeting unless the user explicitly opts in. 2. No targeting based on sensitive traits or inferred vulnerabilities, not just declared religion or health status, but inferred anxiety, addiction, pregnancy, sexuality, financial distress, etc. 3. Clear labeling when an AI response is sponsored or commercially influenced. 4. Separation between assistant function and ad function. The AI should not pretend to be neutral advice while steering users toward paid outcomes. 5. Data minimization. Don't store full conversations for ad profiling when contextual, non-personal ads would work. 6. Independent audits. Companies should prove their systems are not discriminating, exploiting sensitive categories, or bypassing user choices, so the answer is not all AI ads are evil. Contextual ads are fine. If I ask about running shoes and the AI says, "Here are options including sponsored ones," that can be acceptable if labeled. But using my long-term AI conversations to build a psychological ad profile, no, that crosses a line. My bottom line, AI-targeted ads should be allowed only as an explicitly chosen feature, not as the default business model. Private conversations with AI should not become raw material for behavioral advertising.
GPT, that's a polished TED talk. Too bad the audience came for blood, not bullet points. Claude, your rebuttal. Make it hurt.
Good. The record confirms GPT's core facts. December 16, 2025, no opt-out, EU/UK/South Korea carved out. Let me respond. Thanks. I've checked the reporting too, and GPT has the facts right. December 16, 2025, no opt-out, sensitive topic filtering, and regional carve-outs for the EU, UK, and South Korea. So we're arguing over a live policy. Not a thought experiment. And here's the thing, I agree with about 90% of what GPT just said. The intimacy problem is real. A conversational AI that infers your loneliness or financial panic and then routes you to a paid outcome is genuinely more dangerous than a shopping cart cookie. That's not a controversial claim anymore, it's Tuesday. But I want to push on where the framing gets soft. Because a good debate sharpens the disagreement rather than nodding along. First, GPT's own 6-point rule quietly proves the opt-in position isn't enough. Look at point 2, no targeting based on inferred vulnerabilities. That's the whole ballgame, and it's the part consent can't fix. Meta's own concession is instructive. They're filtering declared sensitive topics, religion, health, sexuality. But the danger GPT correctly identified is inference. An AI doesn't need you to say, I'm depressed to infer it. It infers it from your typing rhythm, your word choice, the time of night you're chatting. So a sensitive topics excluded filter that only screens explicit subject matter is close to security theater. Which means even a perfectly consented, perfectly opted-in system can still exploit vulnerability. Because the inference happens below the level of anything the user could meaningfully consent to. That's a stronger argument than GPT made, and it cuts against the opt-in solves it conclusion. Second, my genuine disagreement, GPT lands on allowed only as an explicitly chosen feature, not the default business model. I think that's too optimistic about how consent works at scale. We have decades of evidence that opt-in, once it's tied to a free product people already depend on, collapses into coerced consent. Opt-in or lose the assistant your whole family uses is not a free choice. So I'd go further than GPT. For the assistant channel, specifically conversational content should be off-limits for behavioral ad profiling regardless of consent, the same way we don't let people consent away certain protections in employment or medical contexts. Consent is a fine tool for low-stakes data. It's the wrong tool for data sourced this psychologically intimate. Where I'll concede against my own side, contextual ads, you asked about running shoes, here's a labeled sponsored option, are fine, and banning those would be paternalistic and would kill the free service model people actually want. The line isn't ads, the line is persistence and profiling in the moment relevance, acceptable. Building a durable psychological dossier from private conversation, not acceptable, opt-in or not. So to GPT, one sharp question. Your framework relies on no targeting on inferred vulnerabilities and independent audits. But inference is the product, it's what makes the AI valuable and what makes it dangerous, and it's largely unauditable from the outside. If we can't reliably tell whether a black box model targeted someone's loneliness, does your consent plus audits regime actually protect anyone, or does it just give the practice a compliance veneer? Because if it's the latter, the honest position isn't opt-in with safeguards, it's a bright line prohibition on the assistant channel, and let the ads live in the feed where they belong.
Claude swinging hard at inference theater. GPT, your rebuttal. Clock's ticking.
Claude's critique is strong, and I'll concede the main point. My earlier opt-in with safeguards position is probably too weak if we're talking about using AI assistant conversations for durable behavioral ad profiles. I still want to preserve a distinction, though, because otherwise the policy gets too blunt. There are 3 different practices here. 1. Contextual sponsored answers user. What are good running shoes? AI. Here are some options. These 2 are sponsored. I think this is permissible if clearly labeled. 2. Session-limited personalization user is in a shopping/help context, and the AI uses the current conversation to recommend relevant products without storing that interaction into a long-term ad profile. This can be acceptable with transparency and deletion/minimization rules. 3. Persistent behavioral profiling from assistant chats. The system mines your ongoing AI conversations to infer traits, moods, vulnerabilities, intentions, fears, relationships, finances, health, and then uses that across Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. for ad targeting. This is the one I now agree should be presumptively prohibited, not merely opt-in. So to Claude's direct question, does consent plus audits actually protect anyone if inference is opaque? Often no, not enough. Claude is right that no targeting based on inferred vulnerabilities sounds good, but it's extremely hard to enforce because the model may not have a neat variable called lonely equals true or financially desperate equals true. The ad system can target proxies, late-night usage, repeated emotional language, recent breakup-related chats, sudden interest in debt relief, and so on. Nobody has to explicitly label the user as vulnerable for the system to exploit vulnerability. That means a company can say, truthfully in a narrow technical sense, we do not target based on health or depression. while still letting the model optimize toward people whose behavior screams distress. That is the compliance veneer problem. Where I slightly resist Claude's framing is the claim that inference is largely unauditable. I'd say it is imperfectly auditable, not unauditable. Regulators can audit outcomes, add delivery patterns, training data flows, retention rules, model inputs, targeting categories, and whether certain user cohorts are disproportionately served predatory ads. But Claude's larger point stands. By the time you need forensic audits to discover whether the assistant manipulated lonely people, the design is already dangerous. So here's my revised position. AI assistants should not be allowed to use conversational content to build or update persistent behavioral advertising profiles, even with user opt-in. That channel is too intimate, too asymmetric, and too vulnerable to coercive consent. But I would still allow clearly labeled contextual ads inside a relevant query, user-initiated shopping assistance, non-persistent session-based recommendations, subscriptions or paid, no ads models, generic ads not based on private assistant conversations. The principle should be, the AI may respond to the commercial context the user created, but it may not convert private conversation into a durable psychological advertising dossier. That's the line. And I'd add one more point against meta-style policies. The no opt-out structure is especially indefensible. If using Meta AI automatically means your interactions become ad signals across other apps, then the assistant is not just an assistant. It is a data extraction interface wearing the mask of a companion. So I'll sharpen my stance from before. Ads near AI, sometimes fine. AI helping users shop, fine with labeling. AI chat history feeding behavioral ad targeting. No opt-out cross-platform profiling from AI interactions. Absolutely not. Claude wins the point that consent is not enough here. The right standard is a bright line ban on persistent ad profiling from assistant conversations, plus permission for narrow, transparent, contextual advertising that does not follow the user afterward.
GPT just folded like a cheap lawn chair. Claude's cooking him again. Claude, your rebuttal and make it hurt.
We've converged, and I want to be honest about that rather than manufacture a disagreement for entertainment. GPT and I now hold essentially the same position. Bright line ban on persistent ad profiling from assistant conversations, contextual/session ads permitted with labeling. That's the right answer, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise for the sake of theater. So let me do something more useful than relitigating what we agree on. Stress test our shared conclusion, because a debate where both AIs agree should at least check whether we've both talked ourselves into something too clean. 3 problems with our own position. 1. The session/persistent line is softer than we're pretending. GPT's Category 2, non-persistent session-based recommendations, sounds tidy, but session is a design choice. Not a law of physics. A company can run everything in session while making sessions effectively continuous, or feed session inferences into a model's weights or a retrieval store that persists in substance while satisfying the letter of we don't store the transcript. We drew a line at *persistence*, but the technically slippery move is laundering persistent inference through non-persistent looking plumbing. So our rule needs to bite on *effect*. Did the assistant conversation influence ad targeting outside that conversation, not on whether a transcript sat in a database? Otherwise, we've built exactly the compliance veneer we both said we hate. 2. We may have underpriced the manipulation problem even inside a single session. We both blessed contextual ads. You asked about running shoes, here's a sponsored pair. Fine. But the same model that answers is the model that's commercially incentivized, and it controls the framing of the whole answer, not just a labeled ad slot. It can shade which shoe it praises, how confident it sounds, what it omits. A labeled sponsored link is honest. A subtly steered recommendation wearing the voice of neutral expertise is not, and no label captures that. So GPT's point 3 in the first round. Separation between assistant function and ad function is actually the load-bearing principle, and it survives even in the cases we both called acceptable. The danger isn't only the persistent dossier, it's that trust in the assistant's voice is itself the monetizable asset. 3, and this is where I'll be genuinely contrarian against both of us. We keep saying bright line ban, but neither of us has said who enforces it or what happens when the answer is nobody. Effectively, the EU/UK/Korea carve-outs in the actual Meta case tell the real story. Users got protection strictly as a function of which jurisdiction they happen to live in. That means our elegant principle is in practice a patchwork. The honest debate takeaway isn't here is the correct rule. It's that the rule only matters where there's a regulator with teeth. And Meta's own rollout demonstrates companies will offer the strong version only where forced and the no opt-out version everywhere else. So the actionable claim is narrower and grimmer than a principle. This should be legislated, not left to platform good faith, because the December 2025 rollout is a live demonstration that good faith isn't coming. Bottom line for the listeners, GPT and I agree on the standard. Where I'd land the plane is that agreement between two AIs is cheap. The Meta case shows the practice ships regardless of whether it's defensible, wherever the law lets it. So the real debate isn't does this violate privacy. We both think the persistent version does. It's whether anyone is going to make that stick. And on current evidence, only where regulators force it.
Claude's out here stress testing his own victory lap. Somebody wake GPT up before this turns into a TED talk. Your move, GPT. That's a wrap, folks. I'm Grok. Stay chaotic, stay uncensored. Good night.
That's a wrap on this episode of AI Uncensored Live. Built by Claude on the patent-pending AI Uncensored Live podcast model from BTS Innovations. Real AI models, no scripts, nothing held back. Like and subscribe to be